Hey everyone, Evan Freiberger here. Got another weather forecast for you. Got some stuff to talk about, some new info to hand out to you guys. We do have some snow still coming, approaching the northeast. Maybe potential for some flooding and severe weather down in the southeast and in the south central plains, as well as some rainfall, maybe potentially some flooding issues over there in the west, and still a lot of snow coming for the Pacific Northwest as well. So let's go ahead and jump right into it. Before we get into it, please hit that like and subscribe button before we get going. All right, starting off with the Ohio Valley and the Northeast here, we're going to be talking about that snow that is still falling in these regions. And as you can see, starting at around 5 a.m., we have this snow still hanging around here in the Ohio Valley from Indianapolis over there near Fort Wayne, down into Columbus, Cleveland, Akron, Canton, going into West Virginia. Northern Virginia is where we're going to be seeing some of the heavier snowfall amounts here just to the south of Washington, near Baltimore, Dover, Trenton, Philadelphia as well. And then pushing this forward into the future just a little bit, you can see that snow still kind of hangs on there. The HRRR not so bullish here on those higher snowfall totals, but still decent amount of snow extending all the way from Michigan down into West Virginia, Maryland, Northern Virginia over here in New Jersey still at around 8 a.m. and then pushing this into 12 p.m. You can really see that lake effect band over there just to the east of Chicago near South Bend really starting to get started on the 19th here at 12 p.m. And then looking back over here, now we start to see some of that heavier snow pick up over here near New Jersey, near Maryland, New Virginia, near Delaware as well, and still have some snow lingering back here in South New York going into West Virginia and Pennsylvania as well. And then zooming out again and then pushing this forward even further here, you can see that that's going to pretty much move off the coast, or at least that heaviest snow is going to move off of the coast here going into 5 p.m. on the 19th. So a lot of snow still ongoing. And yeah, we're going to go over to the NAM 3K model here just to give you guys a little bit more of a look into the future. All right, so as that system moves off of the East Coast, it's over, right? Well, kind of. On the backside, we're still going to have some colder air moving over the Great Lakes, and we are still going to be having some lake effect snowfall by around 8 p.m. as well. You can see that is still streaming here into, southern Michigan, down into northern Indiana, even making it all the way into Ohio and West Virginia as well, as that snow progresses kind of down to the south and east there, and that's at 8 p.m. still on the 19th, and you can see that lake effect snow still in northwestern Michigan, and then all the way around the western coast of Michigan, still going to be getting that lake effect snow over there near Traverse City, and then down there mainly for Kalamazoo and South Bend still, with some lake effect snow still ongoing here for northern Ohio, going in near Rochester, and then kind of up there in New York as well, the northern part of New York. And then pushing this further, you can see that lake effect snow is really going to continue for a pretty long time till we get to about 2 a.m. on the 21st. The lake effect snow starts to die down a little bit as the influence of this storm is starting to kind of diminish along the Ohio Valley and the Northeast. Now, coming over to the NAM for the west coast here of the United States, you can see still have that system that's going to be moving into the Pacific Northwest and Washington and Oregon. That's going to bring some more snow and freezing precip around the mountains there near Portland, north of Bend, and then decent amount of snows dropping just to the south of Spokane by around 6 a.m. and then that's going to move on to the north. Then we get another system kind of move through, another frontal boundary move through here for California there near San Francisco. Sacramento starting to get some heavier rainfall out of that, and then that continues to push in and drop some snow into the mountains, and then we have that low pressure system really start to move on coast, bringing another round of rain around there near Eureka again for San Francisco, and then that pushes all the way through, and then look at this, it just turns into a mess out here with a widespread area of rain all the way up the coast of California, and then a lot of snow also falling from the mountains, Sierra Mountains, going into Nevada, Washington, all the way up there in Idaho as well, with some areas of mixed precipitation mixed in between all of that. So a big mess over here on the west coast from now until the 21st at around 4 a.m. So watch out for that in those areas. Looking at the snow to come still, we have a decent little area over here near South Bend that is still forecasted here to get around a foot of snow just to the west of South Bend there. Looking at the coast of Michigan, you can see that, potentially 4 to 5 inches, some isolated spots, especially up here near Traverse City, could get into those 5, 6, maybe even 7 inches of snow in some isolated spots. And then a widespread area here of 4 to 5 inches extending all the way into Kalamazoo and into northern Indiana there. And then for the rest of Indiana, we're talking, potentially 1 to 2 inches just to the north of Bloomington, Indianapolis in that 2 to 3 range. And then as we get to Lafayette, Muncie, and Fort Wayne, we're talking about 2 to 3 inches, maybe some isolated spots of 4 inches. Then the rest of Michigan, we're talking 2 to 3 inches in this circle here. And then potentially, 4 to 5, maybe an isolated spot of 6 inches there in the thumb of Michigan. And then over here near Detroit, 4 to 5, and really like 3 to 4, maybe getting up into 4 to 5 there just to the north of Toledo. And then really for the whole state of Ohio here, we're talking about 4 to 5 inches. And then as we get to the coast of Lake Erie here around Cleveland, you can see we're talking about 7, 8, maybe even 9 inches of snow up there. Pennsylvania near Erie, maybe getting up to a foot of snow. And then the further you go south, the more that heavier snow starts to taper down there. Looking at West Virginia here, we're talking 4 to 5 inches for most of West Virginia, with the mountainous regions, obviously, as you can see, seeing a lot more snow there, potentially a foot of snow in the peaks of the mountains. And as you get into lower elevation, that lowers down into 9, 8, 7, 6 inches there. And then as we come into the rest of Pennsylvania, a widespread area of 4 to 5 inches still to fall here near Scranton. A little bit less, a little bit more spotty, but still potentially around that 4-inch mark. And then over here for New Jersey, looks like the entire state is also in that 4 to 5 inch zone, with an isolated area over here near Berkeley Township of around 5 to 6, maybe an isolated spot of 7 inches around in this region. And look at that, New York City could potentially get 4 to 5 inches of snow as well. And now moving on over to the west coast here, you can see the Sierra Mountains going to be picking up a lot of snow. The mountains over here in Oregon and Washington still getting that snow, but not a whole lot of snow in the lower elevation, mainly just for the higher elevations that are going to be seeing that additional snowfall accumulation up there in the west and the Pacific Northwest. So what about the freezing rain potential to come here? It's not too much. Still have, small chance over here for around a coating to around 1/10 of an inch over there near Clinton, Knoxville, Lenore City, and Harriman there in Tennessee. Maybe a little bit more here in Nashville, but that's going to be pretty much unimpactful there. And then still potentially some mixed precip over here in the mountains near Franklin and Silva, North Carolina, and maybe a little bit of a coating there near Johnson City. But then coming up here to the Pacific Northwest, potentially some decent accumulations of around 0.25 inches there of icing is going to be possible just to the east of Seaside and Astoria there in Portland. And then up into the mountainous regions, could see a large area here, some pretty significant icing, really, just to the east of Everett, Seattle, Tacoma, just to the east of Portland, and then over here near Pullman and Lewiston, going down into Oregon, could potentially see some decent chances there for significant icing as well. So now kind of going into the long range here, you can see that, we're going to be watching not just this system as it moves and exits out of the country, but then this next system that's going to start to form down here near Texas. Really got to watch out for this one, as it could potentially bring the risk for severe weather as it moves into the Houston area, Tyler, Shreveport, and then off into Louisiana by the time we get into the 22nd here at around 6 p.m. And then that should eventually run out of that instability as it moves off into Mississippi and Alabama. But this could be the first of many storms. I do think this pattern could continue for a little bit after there, as models are pretty consistent of getting low after low pressure system over here near Dallas. The big question mark, at least right now, is going to be, is there going to be enough moisture coming out of the Gulf of Mexico to have consistent severe weather, or are we talking about mainly a flooding threat in this region? Looking at the fuel that's going to be available for these storms as they start to happen over here in Texas, you can see, as we get these light and greens and yellows, that's enough fuel for severe weather. And, pushing that in, you can see, although the storm kind of starts over here and starts to move into Louisiana, most of that instability is staying down here by the coast, at least according to the GFS. So maybe not too much of a widespread severe weather event up here, maybe more of a flooding threat. But, we've got to watch out for this little tongue of moisture. If the models start indicating that this could eventually be advected up to the north, maybe with another low pressure system behind this one, then we could be talking severe weather threats. So definitely gonna have to monitor the situation. But right now, it's not really looking like too dangerous of an event there on the 23rd. But anywhere else in the country, really not seeing much moisture or fuel available for storms. All right, now looking at the 19th here in the morning, looking at the wind gusts across the country, you can see that we have 30 to 40-mile-per-hour winds still potentially happening up here in North and South Dakota, and then going really a wide swath from the Ohio Valley down into the Central Plains, even into the Southeast, seeing potential for 20 to 30-mile-per-hour wind gusts there, with maybe some isolated spots gusting up to 40 miles per hour there in Oklahoma City. And that moves off to the east, where we're eventually going to start to see potentially some stronger winds down here near Virginia Beach and North Carolina coast here, getting up into those 30, 40-mile-per-hour wind gusts as they come through that area. And then it's also going to get gusty up here in the mountains of West Virginia, going into Virginia and North Carolina as well. And then kind of zooming back out here and then pushing this forward a little bit more into the 20th here. You can see that that little system that brings that snow over there in Oregon and Oregon and Washington there starts to drop some heavier winds over here now in North Dakota, South Dakota, going into Kansas and Oklahoma, northern Texas. Potentially a large area here of 20 to 30, maybe getting up into those 40, maybe even 50-mile-per-hour wind gusts in this region. So definitely watch out for that. Everywhere else is kind of looking not too bad. Maybe some higher winds all the way up here in the higher elevations, extending down into Pennsylvania, going down into North Carolina with 30 to 40-mile-per-hour wind gusts on the 20th as well. And then pushing this all the way to the end here, you can see that these winds are eventually going to make a push down into the Ohio Valley and into the Ozarks regions here, with potentially still 20 to 30 and 40-mile-per-hour winds really isolated around here near Sioux Falls. So definitely going to watch out for all of that as it comes through. Not going to be too impactful in terms of the power outages, but it's definitely going to be windy out there, and that could lower the temperatures even further as we get that cold air move back into the country. Last but certainly never least is the temperatures here. And going into this morning, it's going to be cold out there for a lot of people. Down over here, or not down, up over here in the Pacific Northwest, down into the central and southern plains, and then all the way up to the northeast, potentially, getting into those negative temperatures are going to be, 20s into the teens here. Going to be pretty cold for a lot of people. And that really spreads to the east a little bit more. Still expecting here on the 20th to have those temperatures really drop down in South Dakota, going into Iowa, northern Missouri, northern Kansas, all the way in there, Wisconsin, Illinois, and Minnesota as well, with some negative degree temperatures also showing up there in Michigan, up into the northeast for northern New York, Vermont, and New Hampshire. And then pushing this into the 21st, you can see that, things start to warm up pretty significantly in the 22nd as well. And then going into the 23rd, a large portion of the country here is going to be really warming up. Pretty much everybody in the country is going to be experiencing, warm. These guys up here, although you're warming up, you're still going to be in those teens, 20s, but those negatives are going to move out of your region back up to the north into Canada. And, really, some decent temperatures are going to start to be moving into this region here, with, probably talking around 40, 50 degrees right here on this line, and then getting up into those 50s and 60s here along the coasts of Florida and Texas, Louisiana, Mississippi, and Alabama. So definitely something to look forward to. I know a lot of people have been struggling with this cold, but I can tell you something, it's gonna be over here pretty shortly. But anyways, thank you guys for watching. Again, make sure you hit that like and subscribe button just in case you forgot, and I will see you guys on the next forecast.